Well, hello and welcome to the N plus infinity times 2 Q&A from the Discord. If you have not seen it, this is from the Discord, and if you're wanting to know more information and you saw the trailer and you saw the blog post, uh, this is a Q&A that kind of goes over a little more stuff for now until they announce more, and stay tuned because in this there is some more information on a playtest that will require you to be within the Discord if you want to have access to it. At least I think if you want to have access to it first, I should say, or be notified first. So um, I just want to go ahead and say that right now. But yeah, this is n plus infinity times 2 Q&A, and I'm going to go over it, but there are some stuff at the end that I won't be covering, but I'll have screenshots that you can just pause the video. So that section will be towards the end, and you can just pause and see what I didn't cover, but I just want to cover main points that I thought were important for the game for people to know about information-wise. That way, you kind of know what to expect, uh, as right now everything's kind of just up in the air. So this will kind of hopefully clarify some stuff for some people, maybe not all, but I hope there's something here for you information-wise. But otherwise, join the N++ Discord, which I might have a link down below. Otherwise, you can just join the N++ Discord and check it out there. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. So, first question is, when will the game release? They say 2027-ish. And if I had to take a guess, this is probably going to be uh, the first half of 2027. If I had to take a guess, I would say maybe even summer. I'm not really sure how fully far along they are, but I would say maybe summer, maybe end of summer, like, fall. We'll have to see. And up next we have, where can we sign up to playtest? Everyone on the Discord will be invited to the beta as soon as we can get it there. It will be a month or two though. Multiplayer games are hard. They also go on to say, we will definitely be streaming all of the multiplayer modes and playing with players live from the community later this summer. I really can't wait. So this is very good because that essentially means probably, if I had to take a guess, in August, if not maybe the end of this month, but I'm thinking August, uh, we'll be getting some sort of play test, and there apparently will be some sort of maybe multiplayer play test because they do say streaming all the multiplayer modes and playing live with players from the community later this summer. So uh, very excited for that. So I'm going to keep an eye out, and if I do find more information about this, I will probably make a post about it or make another video on it. So, up next, we have, how much will it cost? We don't know yet, probably around the same as N++. And N++ is currently going on Steam for $14.99 USD. So, you can translate that to whatever it is to you. That's roughly about probably where it's going to be. Will it be cross-platform? They say yes, we're aiming for cross-play, cross-platform. Up next, we have, what platforms will it be on? Yes, we are trying for all the consoles plus Steam. Fingers crossed. So there's a chance if the game doesn't do very well, or there's some issues on other sides, may not get certain ports, but I would expect this to be on literally all platforms. So up next, we have, what will the leaderboards be like? The leaderboards will be quite different uh, for the competitive modes. It's not really per level scores, but more of an elo type ranking. Now, this is pretty cool because in the previous games, if you obviously know, is high score based. And so for it being an elo type of ranking, that's very interesting and very exciting to me because I always wondered what that would be like in the game like this. And since this is multiplayer focused, very exciting. But next they say, I saw mentions of an elo type system for ranking people's scores and levels. Will there be any flavor of online matchmaking? They say, yes, there will be. We are really hoping that a competitive scene develops both for racing as well as team tag, which that is very exciting. So again, race and team tag are going to be the main online competitive modes, at least matchmaking wise, which is very cool. And I'm very happy to see Tag return. Up next, they say, is it an online only game? And they say, no, it will have some solo and it all works local multiplayer too, and any combination. For example, two people on one machine, one friend on another machine, plus one random from matchmaking. So you can really mix and match amount of players. Up next, we have, should we be worried about ping? There's a lot of players scattered across the globe. And they say so far it's very playable between Quebec and California. However, obviously it will play much better with closer players. You can invite friends via a join code though. This is what we expect will be the most fun. And yeah, very true. Again, with it being a case that this is one of their, not first, but, you know, newer multiplayer experiences, uh, it's going to be more of a peer-to-peer connection. So, it's definitely going to be, as if you're closer, it's going to be better. But hey, I'm very glad they say that it's very playable between these types of distances because that's very important. So, up next we have, will it have user levels? It does. We hope for the multiplayer mapping scene will rival Counter-Strike. The new game modes are really fun to design for. So this is really awesome to hear because as a creator, I do want to be able to make some levels, and that's very good that we'll have that. Up next, they say, is it intended to replace N++, or is it just more N++? And they go on to say, we designed it to be perpendicular to N++. If you want a super hardcore single-player focused game, N++ is the best. If you want to play really awesome multiplayer online, N plus infinity times 2 is the best. So that's very good. They also go on to say one more major reference for this game was Super Mario World. Nintendo took what they learned from the first three Marios, however you define them, and made something that is simultaneously deep and hardcore for their fans, but also worked as the perfect introduction point for new fans. That's our goal anyways. Not quite sure we're there yet. And that is very nice to, kind of hear, is that this is kind of like the idea that they have going for this game. And it does, again, seem like it'll be very easy to get into for anyone, which is very nice. They also did mention this game is inspired in large part by N+, so we're definitely trying to make it more accessible without spoiling anything. And notice how they say N plus because the N plus games were the multiplayer games. So that's kind of what makes sense is that they're inspired more by that. But I will say it does look a lot more like N plus plus. Up next we have, what will the single player experience be like? They say it's work in progress, but it will for sure not be anything like as deep as N plus plus. There are 5 game modes so far, and so four of the five levels will be for non-solo modes. Our analogy is that the relationship between single player and multiplayer is flipped compared to N++, i.e. it had a decent amount of multiplayer, but wasn't the focus of the game and wasn't designed around that. It was single player first and then some bonus multiplayer stuff. The new game will be the opposite, or at least that's the plan so far. And this is very awesome because, again, I've always, wanted and always loved multiplayer, and I've experienced it with, siblings and friends and stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So with this one being multiplayer focused and party like in a way, I'm very excited about that. And so yeah, it's basically gonna be, if you've seen how N++ is structured, it's gonna be that but flipped. So very cool. Up next, we say, will there be physical edition? And they say hopefully. And this is all going to depend on sales or how well the game sells. But I honestly would not worry about this as literally N++ has been on the Switch and PS4 physically. So I wouldn't really worry too much about it. Are there any plans for a proper speedrun mode? And they say, yes, this is something we're thinking about. So that's very nice for those who like to speedrun, which I like to speedrun sometimes in N. So it's pretty cool. Will there be a reverse version of Gold called Coal? No, but Gold has undergone a significant transformation, change slash redesign for this one. Can't say more yet, but please stay tuned. And if you saw in the trailer, I noticed that inside of, I think it was Team Tag, uh, it seems as players might be able to turn into a rocket, uh, maybe after achieving a certain amount of gold. So that's very cool. And by being that rocket, you can chase the opposite players and stuff like that, which is very cool to me. So yeah, we'll have to see how that all works. And then up next we have, do controls feel the same as in N++? And they go on to say they are 99.99% identical to N++. We are still tuning things a bit, switching from floating points to fixed points. Means it can't be perfect, but it's very, very similar. So that's very good that the game will be kind of feeling just like N++, which in my opinion feels very good to play. But I've also heard from players that it is a bit too fast. So, for some players it may not stick well, but as for me, I think N++ feels great overall. It allows you to do so much and have so much control over your ninja, which is very cool. Up next, they say, will there be any new tile types? They say, sadly, no. We have never figured out a way to support true half-tile pieces without exploiting the numbers of tile types, which is awkward. Up next, we have, will the N++ levels be migrated over? What about user levels? And they say, to be honest, we haven't fleshed out the single player much yet because we're focusing on getting the multiplayer great. If someone wants this sort of game in a single player format, N++ is still going to be the best way to quench that, probably. And they also say, unless you're one of the only 55-ish people on the planet, if you really want more single player N, then N++ is still there. But if you'd like to run and jump around with your friends or randos in a variety of different contexts, then N plus infinity times 2, then N plus infinity times 2 time. So yeah, that's essentially the thing is, if you want that, go ahead and play. If you want single player, go ahead and play N++, and if you want multiplayer, go ahead and play N plus infinity times 2. And they also say we are still figuring out if we can / want to migrate N++ levels. Don't know yet. Frankly, most N++ user levels are solo, and most user levels for the new game should be for one of the multiplayer modes, so we don't know yet. Up next we have, do we have to worry about multiplayer fizzling out? They go on to say it won't have to fizzle out. It's peer-to-peer with join codes plus matchmaking, and we intend to support it and keep the servers running indefinitely. So this is very good news, and the fact that it's peer-to-peer has me a little concerned about security issues, but that is essentially probably what they can really afford. Again, they are an indie company, so we do have to take that in consideration, but I do think it'll be fine. It's just peer-to-peer security in terms of PC is what I am a little concerned about, but for console players, there'll be no issue there. It's basically around cheaters there, but yeah, pretty good that we won't have to really worry about it fizzling out, which is very good. Up next, they say, will N have a gun? They say, I don't think it will be in at launch ever, but we have toyed with the idea in general, at least 2 different ways. Actually 3, since one of them is in the game. And I think they are mentioning here that the fact that you can turn into a rocket, I assume by collecting a certain amount of gold, and maybe you build up like a gold meter, and therefore you would be able to use some sort of ability to turn into an enemy or do something like that, or maybe just turn into a rocket. But very cool nonetheless. Up next we have, will the victory dances from 1.4 come back, or maybe a dedicated emote / taunt button? And they go on to say, I can't spoil it yet, but there will be taunting. Smash Bros is the main reference for this project. 4 players, couch ready / tournament worthy. This has me very excited because the taunts or the dances from the victory dances from like 1.4 and the DS, they were very fun to have and very cool in my opinion. But having an emote and taunt button is very funny. I'm very excited to see that as a thing. I just hope it's not like anybody talking, because that would be kind of weird. There's never been talking in ends, so I just hope there's no voices. I'm sure it'll just be like a sound, which would be great. Up next we have, will there be a way to randomize race / PvP levels? They say we're going to do a lot more testing with this one, and we hope to identify good possibilities / potential for improvements like this as much as possible. Up next, we have, will the names of the co-op modes be dropped? They say soonish, in the next many months. It may be a while, we're still prototyping stuff. And they did say 5 modes, and we know that one of them is Team Tag and Race. So any other modes, we will have to see. But leading into this next question, someone did ask and say, did you finally make deathmatch mode? And they say yes. We explain it a bit in the blog post. Up next, they say, will you be adding more entities? They go on to say, we can't say, but don't get your hopes up. We focus mainly on higher level stuff, game modes / rules. Who knows though? We're nowhere near done yet. We did try many ideas, as with N++. This time, nothing really felt vital. We'll see. Up next, we have, will there be any more updates to N++? And they go on to say, probably not. At this point, the codebase have diverged, but more importantly, every time we update N++, it costs a 5-digit amount of money to patch all the consoles, which at this point is unfortunately a large fraction of the revenue that N++ is generating. And that is very unfortunate, but at the same time, I think it's totally fine and fair because N++ has received a lot of content and it's received a good fair amount of updates, so it's very nice to have. Next we have, how will you handle cheating? They go on to say, the plan is what I explained. Banning cheaters based on automatic plus manual reporting. Frankly, the game is too popular, in quotes, the game is too popular that it attracts a lot of cheaters, end quote. Feels like a very easy problem to solve compared to the much harder problem, quote, the game isn't popular, end quote. Which is the main one we're worried about at this point. And yeah, that's a fair thing to be concerned about. But yeah, it probably will end up being a somewhat automatic and mostly manual reporting system for cheaters. The next question is, will you be able to change which ninja you control in co-op? And they say yes, swap spawns is planned for the future since you can't easily swap controllers, which is very nice because instead of having to disconnect and choose what player you want to be, you can just choose around who's where. So that's very nice. So that is going to be it for this Q&A. I'm going to be showing off the screenshots of the rest of the questions that were in this Q&A that I thought weren't as important to me personally. So if you want to pause on any of these and read them for yourself, go ahead and do that. But other than that, I hope you did enjoy, and I hope this helped you kind of get some more information about N+ Infinity Times 2. I would recommend going and reading the blog post if you have not. I believe it was in the trailer. You can get it there. I'm not going to post very many links because there's some weird stuff with links in YouTube videos that can get you in trouble for whatever stinking reason. So I'm not going to put any links other than maybe to the Discord for N++, and you can join there. And that one will be an important one because of the playtest. They will notify people. So, and most likely people in the N++ Discord server are going to be the first ones in. So if you are interested, I highly recommend joining in, and you're always welcome. We have a great community there and play all the versions of games there, and there's different channels for all of it. So anyways, that's going to be it, and I hope this was informative for you, and I might make another video later on when, again, they announce the playtest and maybe some more idea stuff about of like requests of what I'd want in the game, because there's a few things I would like to see, but again, it's just the idea of what maybe I'd like to see versus they have to put this because it is their game after all and their vision for it. So it's as long as it is fun, that's really all that matters. And from the sounds of it, it's going to be a blast. And I'm going to be there hopefully day one, and for sure try to get my hands on that playtest. So yeah, I will talk to you guys soon, and have a good one.